The last video to load, I drew a picture of the world we've been exploring that hasn't been overly detailed. You notice the floor is purple and the sky is yellow, the clouds are blue, you can see the music, and ice, water, and clouds exist simultaneously with the bright sun in the sky. And we're gonna make it work in reality, but then we're gonna do it a different way to make it more interesting, because we are quite limited in this environment, and as such there are only a couple ways we can improve the abilities of our world without spending years instead of a couple days on the subject. So I'll be back, just showing you this image, and then I'm going to show you how to perceive this in reality. It's going to use Minecraft, but that doesn't allow technology that works very well. I was going to use Godot, but it's too powerful and it would take too long to do, so we're using RPG Maker. Yeah. And we're going to build the world in there so that it looks and functions at an improved level compared to just the reality one, which works too. I'm not going to deny it. It's just that we can do more with RPG Maker than we can do with reality at the moment. So I'll be back. This doesn't look purple. I mean, actually, honestly, on camera it kind of does look purple. But the point is that, see that green portion over there? It doesn't have to be green. It's only green in your definition of green. You can redefine the green as a shade of purple, and now the floor is purple. And same goes for the yellow sky. It just happens to be really gray today, which is convenient because that color, the white is a lot easier to see yellow in because it has every light color in it. So you can perceive a yellow hue in that light, or that white. And if there were any clouds out, they'd be blue because they would be the sky, not the cloud. The blue holes in the clouds, there's none, which is inconvenient, but you could always change the way you perceive the outline such that a hole that's blue in the cloud lining could be seen as a cloud rather than the clouds, which is trippy, but cool. So, yeah. And obviously ice existing simultaneously with water just happens to be the right time for that. There's no water around here. There is a cat, though. There's always a cat. Yeah. If you find water, like a puddle, next to some snow, because it's snowing, just happens to work. The neighbor's yard's quite purple. Yeah. And I'll show you the music thing, but it's the same thing as when I was saying that your spectre visibility can actually vibrate with words. It's a way to perceive music, I guess. It's not as cool as it could be, but those subtle details can greatly affect the way you interact with the world, even if it's partially unfalsifiable because you haven't been able to make them more realistic due to lack of advancements in technology. So I'll be back. I made the basic graphics, but that's about it. It looks okay. I don't know, I didn't try that hard for the graphics. I just kind of drew them very quickly. but that's what the world looks like. I'll be back once I've added the abilities we've described in improved ways and whatnot, and I'll put our characters in it, because why not? Okay, so I was going to build the entire world, but like RPG Maker is not that good for it. The only thing I actually ended up adding was the crystals, which changed the color of the. Oh, yeah, this is about as much as I added. Changes the color of the screen. It's too limiting in some areas and not in others. So I'm going to try something a little different, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I made the world in Minecraft. It doesn't behave exactly the same because there's no weight, but the things I've discussed, like the smoke, work in Minecraft too. The note blocks work, and you can see the music. There is ice around it. I didn't do water because I spent too long. It was going to take too long, and I've spent a lot of time on it already. Wow, that's actually kind of cool. The light comes out of the screen. Okay. If I could show you those lights at the end there, they have colored glass on them, so you can see another world where everything's pink. I made the trees. I did the sky, like I said it would. That's the sun. Yeah. So I guess this just shows that it is possible to build other worlds and make them look different. Like, this is not what leaves are supposed to look like because I used a different substance. I changed the color of the grass by using a different kind of block. You know, this kind of stuff can be applied to reality too. Maybe not the music boxes. Music is more complicated in reality, but all this stuff can be used and done like this in reality. Like, you wouldn't have to worry about the ice blocks melting if they're made of plastic, but you wouldn't be able to drink them. So you'd either have to keep them at a cold temperature and keep the surrounding at a comfortable temperature, or you would have to find some other way of holding water so that it looks like ice, which isn't impossible. You can just put it in a glass container and then drain it somehow. Yeah, that is another way you can, like, explore other worlds that are possible through virtual reality to make them more like you'd imagine them, rather than just the inspiration from the reality. And I guess this video is done because it's about to autosave. Alright. I'll be back. Try creating an alien life form. I made a new friend. I don't know what his name is. Okay. Yep. I made an octopus friend. He's an octopus thing. I don't know how my cat's gonna react when she wakes up and sees this. But yeah. Let's talk about robots. Because the last concept on the video we did before didn't go into detail on how an inanimate object can become conscious. And I can only think of one way that would take place. There might be two, but the second one is very complicated, and I don't think we have access to how that happens. We can only emulate it and be uncertain, or certain of its characteristics. The other one, and I'll explain why consciousness is hard to demonstrate at all, but these two aliens are more likely to be unaware than aware, because, as I'll show you in a bit, the only way you could achieve like awareness is with awareness itself. So I'll be back. There is one way these two beings could be conscious right now. One technological way. And that technological way, put simply, is the same technology as how you are seeing this video. And that implies a very different circumstance than my implication yesterday, without a reason for why it could be the case. But once again, could does not mean true. However, let's say I installed a camera onto either one of these things and gave them robotic arms and controls on the other side of the camera. Then this thing could move around. I mean, it can kind of move around. It's literally attached to the vacuum. But the idea is that you don't need to create artificial intelligence in the same sense to like have like more ability. You can literally just do what the rovers do and be on the other side of a camera. And with the advancements in virtual reality, the immersion of that other body is actually quite successful. And there are a couple reasons why you'd probably prefer that over like changing your body to this shape. Because first of all, a camera and the perceptual modification with that camera and those Oculus Rift goggles and various other parts that you'd probably expect or hope for, would actually help you decide whether or not you want to go through such a complicated process to become this thing. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what that is. Like, that one seems relatively easy. I don't even know how you go from human to that, and I don't even know how to begin with that, because I'm nowhere near knowledgeable enough of the body to go from a human to that. But the point is that while you can't become that anytime soon, it's not as difficult to just make this more robotic in function, because it mostly just needs like robot parts here to move the plastic, add a camera where the eyes are, 2 cameras, and then run around like a little octopus plastic bag thing, if you wanted to. And you could argue that it is conscious because there is a person on the other side. And yeah. And it'll behave in a much more unpredictable way within its own abilities than the AI, which, if you've ever played video games, sometimes those AIs are not as successful as the controller or the player. Like, have you ever played a multiplayer game on the internet after playing the AI portion? And you'll notice how much more difficult it is simply because it's another player and not a robot. Yeah. The point of that is also that there are consequences to going from something even like this to like that. Like, I don't know if it's even easier to go back from that to this, but the robot resolves pretty much either problem in many, many ways. Because, as you can see, even though these are still objects, the primitive shape of how they could function is present in their geometry. Like, you just need to add the motion, which I'm less able to do and explain simply because I don't know electricity very well. But, I mean, if they can make walking military dogs, I'm sure they can make other things if they put their time to it. And maybe it's up to the person who first looks for that to work on that process, because most of the technology is there. It's just not arranged in the way it is. Woke up and is confused, or was confused. She's done now. She figured it out because she looked at the vacuum. But yeah. I'm going to move the bag creature because she might try to play with it. And bags and cats don't go well together, so yeah. Okay, when I went outside for a smoke, the wind blew him, and he turned, and now he's like staring at the wall, and it's kind of creepy. And like the slightest breeze will make him move. And once again, I don't know if that's consciousness. I don't know if motion represents consciousness. Like, how do you even prove that? Like, we don't know enough about the mind to know that. So, I'll be back and I'll try to explain you what the difference is between motion and cognition. This is motion. It is it is not alive. I'm moving it with my hand. We don't know if it's alive or not, but there's no way to tell. And if it's everything, it's both anyways, because everything naturally includes both. But, yeah, that's motion. Now, if you give me a second. Cognition is more like I like pizza. Except the only reason you know what that means is because we've memorized each individual letter of the thing, and we ascribe sound and then meaning, which is not the image on the screen. Like the I, because other languages, I don't come. Okay. I can speak French too. That's a fun fact. But I don't even know if that's spelled right though. But I think it's spelled right. I might have messed up the syntax, but see, that's another thing. Because different languages are not the same, saying the same thing in this way takes one more letter, or like more than one more letter, but more than one word. And you can't create like a new language that would somehow unify the entire thing in any way. Like you can't go, like you can go, I j'aime le pizza, and that would be the bane of all French teachers. But this is a different language, and you can't, like, the meanings aren't actually the same. Like this actually says I love pizza, and this says I like pizza, and like even that's not even equivalent in a complete way, if that makes sense. Like you don't even pronounce this the same way. Le, like, would you put the le there? Would you not? If you did that, it would be a different set of variables. But the thing is that, like, meaning is sort of lost in the other words, and there's no way to, like, learn every word that possibly existed, because j'aime and like are similar in meaning, but not, and there's like a boundary there in the meanings. Like, it's weird, because this image is meaningless forever until I start pointing out which each individual part means, and then it seems to become concrete. But like, I could say the sun in this image represents the light, and then someone else could be like, no, I disagree, the sun in this image represents ostriches. Kind of a weird example, but the difference is that I didn't change anything about the symbol, and it's the same for language, because words and writing is just a symbol. So the image is literally a picture, it's a shape, and we attach some sort of meaning from our cognition and our mind to that image. But what I'm getting at is that the television has no idea what's going on a screen. It doesn't know. Like, it sees the image, or it doesn't see the images. We do. We see shapes on it and sound that we happen to understand as similar forms of meaning. But to the television, it's not anything. It's like kind of like electrical signals that cause certain effects. Like I don't know. Let's write a very simple and probably uncertain programming syntax, or syntax and language, like if 1 equals 2, which is never going to happen, then, and the only reason, this is a perfectly fine syntax. You would have to tell the computer that 1 does equal 2, but see, that's the thing. You could tell the computer that 1 equals 2 and it wouldn't even know the difference. You would literally just have to go into the deeper code and change the binary number so that it matches up with 1 equals 2. You just have to go deeper into its own code and break your own rules of sense to make the computer then think that. And you wouldn't even have to do that. You would just have to make like a string and say that, and I don't actually know how you would do that, but you create the illusion of this. Or actually, I'm going to try to figure that out. I'll be right back. I'll find a way to do this with code. For that, you're not going to get what that means, but the easiest way to do that is to have 2 variables, and you might not understand what this means, but you just do 2 variables and you call them by different numbers, and then you make their variable equal the same number. So like you do like var or int 1 equals 1, int 2 equals 1, and that's how you would do it. You would just, if 1 equals 2, then something. And see, that's the thing. It has no idea, the computer has no idea that 1 shouldn't equal 2. It just thinks it does because deeper in the code it's been told that 1 and 1, that they're the same. And that's the very basic thing you can do with programming. But it doesn't know what the 1 means. It doesn't know what the 2 means. It's told that it's supposed to do this when this condition is true, but the condition is nothing more than a setted if variable, which when it's like set to go in this direction, it goes in this direction. If it's supposed to go in this direction, it'll go in that direction. Like that's what a it's basically like something falling and it hits this, and then it either goes this way and this way, and there just happens to be a little thing here that decides whether it does or not. And that is set up by the reactions in the program when you press keyboard stuff. And I don't even know if that's true, but I imagine it works something like that, because you can make a computer without electricity. The first one that was ever made was made without electricity, and it did basic computational things, and it worked in that sense. That's why it's a computer, because it computes. It doesn't think. Some people say it thinks, but it doesn't actually have any idea what it's doing. And so, how would you program meaning into a computer? And that's the biggest question of computing. But I don't even know, because you'd have to see it from the computer's perspective, and I kind of made it worth with the meaning math thing, because meaning plus math,
I don't actually know how I got there with that in the first place, because that was, I'm not even sure, I don't remember. But, okay. This is a word. It represents a meaning in your mind, which ironically is also the word meaning. So meaning and math. You try programming the computer to cognitize the idea of meaning and math. It's not a like merge of the word. I did that badly, but that may thing. Like, you could combine the word, but it doesn't actually know what this is, and it won't be able to compute the ability of what it could do. Like, you could teach it all it needs to know about science, math, art, and I don't know, movies. And then you tell it to combine these, and you need to tell it how they're going to combine it. You have to go through every possible variable. By the time you've programmed all that, you already know what it's going to do. It's going to do something like an artistic movie about math and science. And like, yes, you could do the like word mix. That I've figured out how to do. That's not very difficult at all. You just get it to print random words according to what you select or other. I was going to make a code at one point that just did that, because it's easier than just trying to remember words. But the actual process of going from science plus math is like, it doesn't have any idea. Yeah. It doesn't know. It's just like, who knows? But you could try something like, oh, you could put each variable in like this, like that, like a pocket thing, and then like modulate it and have them move all around and rearrange. But like, it still doesn't know what it's doing. It's just moving parts around to make it look, and it wouldn't even be grammatically correct. Like, you'd have to change the language every time, and it's because of the way an if and then statement works. That's like extremely important. Like, I don't know any code that doesn't use if and then, or not then, but just if and else, not then. I don't know any program that uses then, but else. That's the thing. It doesn't even know what then is. It knows what if and else is. So, I don't know. I don't know how you can make a computer create a new idea, because every idea we've ever made a computer do is an idea that we already had. So it might take something deeper than number, because like you can add meaning together to create new meanings, but there's no like numeric value to the meaning of something. Like I tried going like one science, like I went all the way back to like the first human thoughts, like what was it? Like it was like food, water, sex, and shelter. And I put them as numbers like that, and like I don't know what that did, but it didn't do anything for the most part. It basically just gave a numerical value to the meaning, and that's as close as I've gotten to anything beyond meaning and number, which are totally but yeah, just that is that is an issue that I haven't resolved yet in my head. Because it's just like, I don't... But it's kind of good, because like, it implies that computers don't already know how to think. Because this just does what it does because I'm puppeting it around. So that is the end of the video. For now, I will continue to try to think of something beyond meaning and number, because I don't know. I don't know that.